friends. I have Takima here with me. She is one of my fellow sister queens from American Elegance. I'm so excited to have Takima here with us today on the SCAR initiative. So I'd like for Takima to introduce herself and give a little bit about why she has decided to join us on this episode.
Greetings, everyone. I am Takima Rogers. I am the current Miss American Elegance Woman 2021-2022. I was just recently crowned back in October, so I'm super excited about that. My journey has been very exciting. My platform is It's Got to Stop the Movement. It's got the number 2, stop the movement. I started the movement for me and my children. I wanted to give my children a voice. I feel that a lot of parents don't give their children a say or a voice in situations. So I decided to give them that voice. So with my movement, we go to local schools, local businesses, churches, wherever they might have us. And I let my children speak first. I have a son and a daughter. My son is 15 and my daughter is 12. They both have birthdays coming up. So I'll have 2 teenagers pretty soon.
Bless your heart.
Right. And I allowed them to tell their story. My son was actually in an abusive relationship with me, and he was like my little protector. He was very young. He couldn't have been no more than 3, 4, maybe, but he's seen a lot that he shouldn't have seen. And I felt as a parent, I let him down. So I wanted to give his pain a voice. One day he was at school. Somebody was just picking. You know how they say when you pick the bear, if you poke it too long, it's gonna growl back at you. And he did, and he choked the little boy out. And he said, "Mom, I blacked out." And I said, "Babe, what do you mean?" By the time he just said, "I blacked out." By the time I got to the school, he was in the principal's office in a fetal position. He didn't know what to do with himself. He just blacked out. It was just like he left his body and he didn't know what to do with it. He's gotten angry before, but it's never gotten to the point of him blacking out. He said, "Mom, I just seen black. I didn't know what to do." And my next thing was to get him to understand that I will hurt him. I grabbed him by his neck. I held him to the tree. He walked me through it. He said, once I grabbed him, I blacked out. And when I got there, he was in the fetal position. And he said, "Mom, I'm hurting." And I said, "Well, baby, why didn't you tell me?" He said, "I didn't know how. And it's been there for a while and I didn't know how to deal with it." So I wanted to give his pain a voice, like my pain had a voice. I can tell my story to anybody, but if I can't teach my child how to let their anger and their story go, I'm not doing my job. So it helps him walk through his reality and where he is now. Has he grown? Tremendously. Being able to tell his story, even though he was 3 or 4, he tells it from that 3 or 4-year-old child perspective of that.
Right.
With my daughter, she was bullied for about 2 years, didn't know anything about it. Didn't know it. She would come home. You know how parents do. You have the snack ready, you help them with their homework, and you go about your day. She wouldn't allow me to touch her. She wouldn't allow me to hug her. She'd get her snack. She'd go in her room. She'd do her homework. And this was like, you get out of school at like 3:15, but it was a constant thing. And she would go to sleep. I would have to wake her up to eat, and she would sleep throughout the night. Didn't know what was going on. Little boy pushed her one day at school. She couldn't have been maybe primary school, elementary age, and broke her ankle. Didn't know anything about it. Principal didn't call me. Teacher didn't call me. Nurse didn't call me. And I looked at her ankle and I noticed she was limping. I said, "Babe, what's wrong with your ankle?" The size of a baseball. She was like, "I tripped and I fell." You didn't tell me at first that the little boy would, pushed you and you fell. You said, "I tripped and I fell." So me thinking, okay, she was on the track. She was running, twisted her ankle, didn't think anything, put ice on it, rubbed it down, wrapped it up. It still was swollen. After the second day, she said, "Mama, the little boy pushed me. I didn't want you and Daddy to get upset. So that's why I didn't tell you." Because I'm a protector. I'm one of those ones. I'm going to protect my children to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
Went to the school, told the principal. Oh, the principal said, she went to the nurse. I said, "Well, what did the nurse tell you to do, baby?" "Oh, she told me to go to the bathroom and get a brown paper towel, wet it, and put it on my ankle." Okay. Ended up having to take her to the ER. She had to go end up seeing an orthopedic doctor. She ended up being in a cast for her birthday because this was like 2 weeks before her birthday. She's just December baby. So she was born December 9th. So 2 weeks before her birthday, she had to spend the whole, I think, about 2-3 months in a cast. Let that slide. You know, I was like, hey, we got to handle this. Yeah. Oh, you know, kids will be kids and he didn't mean it. Let it slide. Went on maybe about, she couldn't have been no more than 4th, 5th grade. He decided he was going to take a loogie out of his mouth and spit it on my child. No. That's where I drew the line. So picked her up from school. She didn't say anything. She was like, well, Mom, I didn't want to tell you while we were at the school because I know you and Dad's temper. Little boy spit on me today. I said, what do you mean he spit on you? I looked at her shirt. Now, mind you, you're going to leave a stain if you spit something like that. Right. Left a stain in her shirt. And I said, well, what is that? And she said, that's where he spit on me. That's where I drew the line. Turned around, Mom turned me around, took me back to the school. And I was like, I'm drawing the line right here. This cannot continue. We have to do something about it. Oh, well, kids are going to be kids. He said he didn't spit on her. I said, this is an issue. I said, if I take this and get this, you know me, get this tested, his saliva is on her clothing. That's DNA. This is a problem. Oh, we're going to take care of it. It's no problem. We're going to take care of the problem. We're going to discipline him the best way we know how. Nothing ever came of it. I said, okay. And I told my fiance, I said, next time this happens, I'm pressing charges. It's a problem. So she was about 5th grade. She came home bawling. Did not know what was going on. This went on for years, back and forth with the school. Didn't know why she was crying. She said, Mama, I said, I don't want to tell you, but I got to tell you because now it's crossing the line and he wants to put his hands on me. He said to her, I'm white, you're black, I'm a boy, you're a girl, and I can hit you, beat you up, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Oh my gosh.
That's where I drew the line. I went to the school. I repeated it to the principal. Yeah. Well, I don't think he meant it that way. No, this is something that he's taught at home.
Right.
Absolutely. I had to draw the line when you threatened to put your hands on my child and then you made a racist comment. This is a 5th grader making a racist comment. You had to hear it at home. So I proceeded. I called the police. I made a police report. I had to do what I needed to do to protect my child. You already broke her ankle. I already had to do a police report for that. Then you spit on her. I didn't do it the second time. Now I have to do another one. Yeah. But you didn't want me and the child's parents to interact. So it was like, well, you know, I can't tell you who the child, I could care less who the child is. But now he's starting to threaten my child, bodily harm. So now me and the parents still haven't met the parents. They decided that they didn't want to meet with me. I did what I needed to do. I had to get the police involved because now it's bodily harm. They had to end up keeping her on one side of the school, him on the other side. Now she's in middle school with the pandemic going on. It pulled her out of the situation. And I think for her, that in a way was God's blessing for her. She's better now because she's no longer in that environment. She's no longer around that person. She's blossomed, but she loves as a 12-year-old to say, hey, this is what I've been through, but this is how my mom showed me how to overcome it. She's given me a voice. And she tells people that all the time. My mom gave me the opportunity to have a voice, and she feels that I am old enough and I am mature enough to sit here today and tell you my story. So that's where my platform came from. It started in a totally different way. It was for someone else. But as I built the platform, moved my platform, I realized that God gave it to me for my children. So I feel that most parents need to give their children a voice. If you can't give them a voice, at least listen to what they're going through. Because my children did not feel comfortable at one point opening up to me. So now that they can open up to hopefully millions and billions of people one day to tell their story and be an inspiration, I pray that eventually us as parents, we can learn how to sit down and listen to our kids.
That is so amazing, Takima. That is just a beautiful opportunity to turn such a heinous situation for both of your children into something that can be used to change the world. And my gosh, how incredible are your kids for going through such adult situations. I mean, I don't know many adults that can handle it the way that your kids did. And to go through the abusive situations that they did, and to be able to come out on top and as the bigger person with so much love and understanding that what they went through was for a higher purpose to help somebody else.
They love it. They love doing community service with me whenever they can get out. They do it with me. My daughter loves it to the point where she's like, Mom, I just want to do something and get my friends involved. So I try to make sure that they're involved with anything that I do, whether it's pageantry or just me going out into the community and serving. I make sure that they're with me so they can have a good impact on the world and leave their stamp.
You're definitely a servant leader and showing them through action that you can't just speak the words, you actually got to do too with the actions and back it up in both ways.
Right.
So, thank you so much for sharing your platform. That's incredible to be able to hear the history of that. So does this have some connection as well to the scar that you've chosen to highlight? And if so, can you talk a little bit about the history of this scar that you've chosen to discuss, the significance, anything in particular that is really meaningful to you?
So for me, my platform highlights the domestic violence situation that I went through. I'm one of those ones. I guess you could say I'm finna be 40. So at the time I was probably in my late 20s, early 30s, and he was younger than me. He was probably maybe early 20s, maybe. And I felt like, hey, I love this guy. He's an amazing guy. When I was working at the mall and one of my friends brought him up there. He was from Louisiana. Sweet guy at first. Wine dined me, loved on my son, like he was his own, things like that. And eventually he ended up proposing. I said yes, being me. Hey, he's doing the things that a man is supposed to do. He's working, he's providing whatever. He would come down on the weekends. He would stay with our friend. I'd go over, spend the night, take my son with me. We hang out, whatever. I've seen the red flags, but you know how you're so caught up and so in love, you don't want to see the red flags. Even my friends was like, hey, I'm starting to notice he's hitting on your baby young and he's starting to hit on him, and I'm like, well, he has to learn right from wrong, a little pop every now and then. But it started to get beyond the popping. It was just like, I worked 2 jobs. That's just been me. I've always worked to make sure that my son's had everything he needed before his sister got here. It was parachutes, food to go in his mouth. I knew my mom, all she taught me was to work. And eventually you started getting arrested. So my checks were going to lawyers and bailing you out. And it was like, well, if you love me, you'll pay this right here to get me out. Well, if you love me, you'll do this right here. So eventually I wasn't just working for my son. I was working to keep him from getting locked up. I was working to keep him out of trouble. So it went from me focusing on my child to focusing on this man that I'm supposed to spend the rest of my life with. Eventually I got him out of all of his trouble, out of all of his debt. It was just like, I'm going to take this and I'm going to get you out of all of this debt. It had to be maybe Easter time. And I said, I got income tax back. We're going to clear all your debt out, all your tickets, all your law, anything that you have, we're going to clear it out. His dad called me and was like, it's time for y'all to get married. And it's time for him to come home. I was like, well, I'm not ready to make that step yet. He just proposed. It wasn't even a year yet. He was like, no, I said what I said, and my son needs to come home. You need to do what you need to do and get my son home. The dad started coming into the relationship. And because I felt like, okay, that's my father-in-law, he wants the best for his son. So I did what he told me to do, paid off everything. Not even a month later, we got married in March 13th. Never forget it. Like they say, 13th is always a bad day, and it was a Friday.
Oh, no.
And it was a Friday. I laugh at it now, but it's hilarious. It was March 13th, it was a Friday. Wow. Worst day of my life. The day had already started off bad. We were going to the courthouse anyway. His mom came down. She wanted to be there. It was just us, my son, and his mom and my mom. Day was already going off bad. The person who was supposed to bring him to the courthouse bailed out on him. Was like, I'm not supporting this. Him and her was just like not supporting it. Y'all fight all the time. Y'all are starting to jump down each other's necks. I'm not supporting it. They dropped out of going to pick him up. My mom dropped me and my son off at the courthouse and went and picked him up. Something was like, get up and go, run. Didn't do it. I stayed. I heard that voice. You know how you hear that voice?
Yeah.
And it's just, get up, get your child, run. I was like, well, no, I'm gonna stay here. I stayed. Not even 2 days after us getting married, I packed up my son. We moved to Louisiana. Didn't know anybody. And it was all of his family, his mom, his dad, his sister, his brother, everybody that he knew, his aunties, his uncles. They eventually was like, what were you thinking?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I loved him because they started seeing it. It was like, you wouldn't take me anywhere. You weren't working. Your mom was paying our bills. We were living in a FEMA trailer. So it was still around. Katrina was still fresh.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I said, well, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make the best of it. I don't want it to fail. So I'm going to do what I can. Eventually it started, well, when I'm not at home, you can't go out of the house. I was like, huh? He was like, when I'm not at home, you don't go out of the house. I was like, okay, well, I understand, you know, I'm in a weird place. I really don't know anybody. So he's looking out for my best interest. And his mom was like, okay, I'm gonna take you to the store. You're gonna get XYZ. And this is how we're gonna do this. If I gotta take care of y'all until he goes to work, this is what we're gonna do. This is how we're gonna do it. I was like, well, dang, they just all bossy like this, or is it just me?
Mm-hmm.
So eventually, as the months progressed, you started to put your hands on me. Didn't I tell you not to do this? Why are you talking to this person? Then your homeboys was like, don't she wash your clothes? Don't she cook for you? Don't she this for you? Haven't she done this? So they were trying to defend me. And he was going against, like, y'all don't know nothing about her. I got to keep her in line, da, 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 da.
Mm-hmm.
So his next door neighbor, she ended up, hey, why don't you and the baby start coming over during the day to get y'all out of the house? The baby can't just run around the trailer all day.
Right.
So started doing that. That made him even more angry. So then he turned on my child. So it was just like, you started doing little things because, you know, if you get to my child, you're getting to me. So we went to his dad's house one day. His dad actually hit his stepmom in front of me. It was like you had no disregard for children being in the house of anything. So his little brother was there, my baby was there, and it was just us. And his dad made the comment, well, if you smack her around a little bit, you won't have the problems that you having. And I looked and I said, who are you talking to? He said, I'm talking to my son. And his stepmom was like, please be quiet, because it's not going to do anything but start a ruckus and he's going to come after you. And I want to protect you. I said, does this happen all the time? She was like, I'm used to it. I've been dealing with it for 3 years. And she said it under her breath to where they couldn't hear her. And I was like, well, why are you still here? But I'm asking her why she's still here. And I'm still in the midst of it. So after all that went down, I was just like, well, I'm not going to your dad's house anymore. That's just a non-factor for me. Well, that's my dad. We got into this big argument and he came at me. And I was eating McDonald's. I started getting sick. I was sick as a dog. Didn't know why I was sick. And he threw his drink on me. And my son came running from one corner. He was like, Mama, let's go in the room. Mama, go room. I got him. We went to the room. He followed me and threw all of his food on me. I was just standing there. I put my son behind me and he threw it at me. So my natural reaction, I need to protect my son. So I started throwing stuff to him. His uncle came in and was like, what are y'all doing? I was like, he came at me first. So my natural reaction was to protect me and my child. It was I had to clean up the whole trailer. Food was everywhere. Mm-hmm. And just one day I had enough. I just said enough is enough. Leading up to me leaving, my son was in the shower. I went to his mom's house to get some rice. Mm-hmm. And the water was on the stove boiling. I was like, I'm gonna run over here. He's in the shower. I'm gonna run over here, get some rice. I'll be back. I heard my son scream. And it wasn't like a cry of, haha, I'm just crying. It was like, come help me.
Right.
Luckily, my son knew to jump back. At the age he was, he jumped back. Mm-hmm. And he said, water. I didn't know what he was talking about. He had the audacity to throw the hot water from the stove over the shower.
Oh my gosh.
Threw it. He threw the pan at the pot and the water. So my son jumped back when he kept, and my son kept saying water, water. So, you know, he's about 3 or 4, so he can communicate.
Yeah.
So I was like, water, water. So when I go in the bathroom to pull this, he's walking around with just, he knew to wrap himself up. And when I pulled the shower back, that's when I seen the boiler. And when I looked on the stove, the eye was still on. And that's what dawned on me. You took the boiler from the stove and launched it over. That was the last straw for me. So I called his mom and I said, hey, your son is about to die. Do you have his insurance paid up? And in my head, that was my mentality at that moment. And she said, what are you talking about? I was like, do you have his life insurance paid up? She was laughing. She was joking. She thought something, was going to happen. I said, well, do you have his life insurance paid up? She said, yeah, it's paid up. I said, well, in the morning, I need you to take me to get him a suit because he's going to be in church on Sunday morning. Oh, you're going to get him, I had this in my head. I had it plotted out. I knew what I was going to do. I had called my godmother and I said, listen, I'm gonna need you to get my bail money ready because I'm about to go to jail. And she said, well, what happened? I said, he attacked my son. That's the last straw. She said, I'm getting your train ticket in the morning. I need you to be on this train. I'm calling your god brother. I'm calling your sister, calling your god sister. I need you to be on this train. I said, I'm gonna be on the train, whatever it takes. But as of right now, my mind is made up. Your mama gonna have to come get me out. She said, baby, don't do nothing stupid. We got into hand-on-hand combat. I didn't even know I was pregnant at this point. It was Mama Bear protecting her cub. Yeah. Oh, you're not walking out of here tonight. I said, well, you're not either. So one of us going to have to eventually give in. It was hand-on-hand combat. His mom walked in, got his uncle. He came in, pulled him off of me. And she pulled me off of him. And she said, just pack it. His mom was like, this is enough. Just pack your stuff and leave. I said, oh, I already called my family. My train ticket is my son's ticket and my ticket is at the train station. She was like, well, I just need you to go or I'm going to have to call the police. I said, he started it when he threw water on my child. And that was enough for me.
Oh my gosh. And how long were you guys married before you started, or you said you started seeing red signs? So how long were you guys married whenever it started to escalate?
We were married no more than maybe 2 months maximum. Wow. We were together for about a year before we got married. I started seeing the red flags close to our first year together, and I ignored them. And I would tell anybody, once you start seeing those red flags, follow your gut. Your heart is going to tell you something different, but follow your gut. Listen to your gut. When you start seeing that first one, that second one where they trying to get you not to talk to your family, not to be around, he moved me to a whole nother state. We got married. 2 months into it, it started escalating. It was like an escalation of things. Like you wouldn't let me out of the house. Whenever you left the house, you made sure I didn't have a way to get from point A to point B. There was times where you were telling your sister, hey, she in there, go sit with her, make sure she don't go nowhere. So you had people babysitting me and your siblings were going along with it because they had the same mentality. You watch out for me, I'm gonna watch out for you. And then it was, oh, you messing with my homeboy because your homeboy was coming and he was trying to protect me. Like, dude, if you had somebody that's cooking, cleaning, washing your stuff and all you got to do is go to work, who don't want that? So 2 months into it, it escalated like that. And it wasn't something that I was ready for.
So he was showing the classic signs of an abuser. And so he was manipulating you. He was love bombing you by the things he was saying and he was doing. He had you isolated. So a lot of these things he was already kind of starting from the beginning, and the things that were leading up to him finally getting you away from your family and your friends, everything that you were familiar with. And then it just ramped up whenever y'all were finally at his home. But then there's also that history of abuse within his own family between his father and stepmother. So do you feel like that's where a lot of it was, that learned behavior? And this is where it was just a generational thing that to him, that was a normal way of having a relationship.
Yes. I think when he seen his mom go through it,
Uh-huh.
and I never knew, his mom would give me bits and pieces
Gotcha.
of her reality. This is how his dad act. You would never give me the full story because you wanted someone to drop your child on.
Mm-hmm.
You know how a parent loves their child,
yes.
And then when they get older, you try to figure out how to push them out of the nest. She didn't want him out of the nest. She just didn't want it to be her problem, because it went from dad to your oldest child treating you like you were his wife. And it wasn't a mother-son relationship. It was, my daddy told you what to do, so now I'm finna tell you what to do. And you dropped him off on me, and that's how you left it. And then you would just give me bits and pieces. Well, make sure you don't make him mad. Don't do this around him. If he asks you to do this, just go ahead and do it. Don't argue with him. But then her sister started to say, well, baby, why are you still here? I see the way he treats you. Now I'm asking, now aunties and uncles are getting involved. And instead of you, and it didn't dawn like, hey, your mom, your dad's not here. So they're trying to step up and protect you and get you out of the situation. It had got to the point where they were like, we'll pay for you to go home. No, but that's my husband. I need to work it out. In my mind, that's my husband. This is normal. I mean, I seen it happen in front of my own face. Like, to me, it was normalcy by that point. Even though it was 2 months into the marriage, it became normal of us arguing all the time, us putting our hands on each other all the time. It became normal to the point where I was literally physically getting sick. I didn't know why. I would get up, feed my baby, change his clothes. We would sleep all day. It had made me to the point where there was days I didn't want to get up, to where my son would have to sit on the bed and watch me sleep all day.
Did he ever, well, let me try to figure out how to phrase this, I guess. Whenever you, because it seems like you've had this instinctual understanding within yourself that this is not right. I mean, you're a smart woman. You got a good head on your shoulders. You know, the right from wrong. Did you challenge his authority in the relationship between you and him and say that, I mean, speak your mind? Because you don't strike me as somebody that would have just kept quiet. I mean, the way you were having conversations with his family too.
So in my past, I was bullied. So my children, and I tell people, the circle of it went around in a circle. So everything that I dealt with as a child, each one of my children have dealt with. I was bullied from 2nd grade all the way up until I graduated high school. I stopped the generational thing with my daughter by stepping in and being a parent. I never told my mom. So communication with me and my mom, it was like, oh, I'm good. Eventually, I started getting angry. I was fighting in school, getting suspended. I hurt a girl so bad in school to the point where she left bloody from her face to the shoulders, bruises everywhere. You kept picking with me. You poked the bear. So my natural instinct was, when I see Black, I fight. That's what I do. Now it's done a full circle, and now it's come to my children. So now I have to stop the generational thing. I didn't know what communication was. His aunties was like, hey, talk to us. Tell us what we can do. I didn't know what it was, because I would always tell my mama, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. It took me to go through that to get the voice that I have now, to scream at the top of my lungs, to say, hey, I'm here. See me. This is how I am now. But then I didn't have a voice. I didn't know how to use it. So my natural instinct was run and hide.
I see.
And defend yourself later. Because if you defend yourself, whenever you did it in the past, it's gotten you in trouble. So don't let that bear come out, because it's going to be your fault. And it was never, you're defending yourself. That's why you did what you did. That was wrong. You shouldn't have done that, because if you didn't do it, you wouldn't be in that position. You wouldn't be in that position. That wouldn't have never happened to you. Why are you doing that? So I was always chastised for it. So I never defended myself in the situation.
So your lack of defending yourself was a defense mechanism that you didn't even realize was, yeah, wow. And how long were you all married before you finally decided, I'm done? This is the day I'm walking out?
It was like the third or the fourth month, I started planning. Literally, when I say it was the shortest, it was like we got married in March. It escalated from March to the second month. Mm-hmm. By the fifth or the fourth month, I was completely numb.
Oh,
I didn't talk to anybody. I just shut down. Yeah. My mechanism was keep it to yourself, hold it in, go and shut down. I knew I had to go into survival mode. Mm-hmm. If I didn't speak, if I didn't talk, my child was safe. If I didn't go out of the guidelines of what was set before me, my child was safe. So I went into shutdown mode because I didn't have family down there. I had church members that were in Katrina that came to Alabama but I didn't have their numbers to get in touch with them. They had moved back to New Orleans, but I didn't know how to get in touch with them. So it was, let me keep my child safe until I figure it out.
So you're at the day of leaving. Walk us through that day. What happens?
I packed up what I could. And I mean, you know how you have those luggage sets where you have big, small. I left my luggage set. That's how deep it was. It was like I had one big duffel bag. I had this binder with all my son has asthma. So from the time he was a little kid, I had this binder. And it had all of my medical papers, Social Security card, birth certificates, all these things was in there. I left everything. When I say everything, I packed up what I could. It was just like, okay, now it's survival mode. Yeah. He worked at night. He finally got a job. He worked at the hospital. So the way the trailer was set up, picture this, you being in a small box. You know, have you ever been in a camper? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Imagine a small camper, 2-bedroom camper. You have the couch here, the stove here, the refrigerator was by the stove. The bathroom was literally like right here. So I could take my hand from the couch, open the door, and swing the door open. That's how close the bathroom was. My son's room and the 2 bunk beds were in the back. Our room was in the front. The TV was like right here and a table. So imagine fighting in that area all the time. So I had nowhere to run. Yeah. So it was either run into my son's room, run into there, or lock us in the bathroom. So nowhere to run at that point. So when he would go to work, I was slowly packing. And up under the mattresses, that's where we kept our luggage. In my room, in the bedroom, it was like this big storage space. So I moved all of the luggage from there and put it into my son's room because the bunk beds had storage spaces. So what I would do is every day that he would go to work, I was stuffing stuff into this duffel bag and sticking it back in the storage space. Wow. So it maybe was a Saturday, maybe. And I talked to his mom and I was like, I'm done. I'm done. What do you mean? What do you mean? You can't be done. And she's a church-fearing, God-fearing, church-going woman. You took us to the pastor. The pastor tried to counsel us, and it wasn't no better. Mm-hmm. So by Monday, I was done. We got into this huge fight. I left my son with his grandmother. And she said, baby, these were her words, don't do anything I wouldn't do. Mm-hmm. She knew it. She seen it on my face. She said, you never left baby boy with me. Please don't do nothing I wouldn't do. And I said, Granny, I'm going to be all right. She said, I see it. I said, I'm going to be okay. We got into this huge fight. The TV, I pulled the TV, like trying to save myself, pulled the TV down off the thing. I just started pushing stuff in the way. Mm-hmm. Come that Tuesday, I called my godmother called me that Tuesday night. She said, you called me by mistake. And I heard it all. She was like, your god brothers, they're getting ready to hit the road. I said, no, just get that. She said, the train ticket is there. I had to wait until she purchased, like she had, I think the train ticket was for like a Tuesday or Wednesday. So I had to go through the weekend and lead up to that day for me to leave. And I told his mom, I was like, I'm leaving. This is the date of my train. You can either take me or the neighbor's gonna take me. However it's gonna work out. We got into this huge fight. And then literally it was the day before I left. And it was just like, literally when I tell you life was going like this, literally in slow-mo, and I blacked out. And it was over from there. That next morning I woke up and his mom was like, I'm done. You all tore up my house. You're gonna have to leave and he's gonna stay with me. So everything was my fault. You pushed him to it. You pushed him to fight in you. You egged him on. You were over here yelling. But in order for me to yell, he came at me first. I had the scars and the bruises to prove it. It went as far as him manipulating his mom and telling him, she pushed me. So I pushed her back and a fight broke out. I seen black. It was like slow motion the whole entire time. Once everything ceased, that's when I guess we both came back. He slept in my son's room. I slept up there in the front. That Wednesday morning, I grabbed the duffel. He said, oh, you were already ready planning this. I said, yeah, I'm not dumb. I might have shut down on you, but I'm not dumb. I pulled my duffel bag out. He was like, well, just take all your shit. I was like, I can't do that. So I grabbed what I could. I grabbed the duffel bag. His mom took me to his grandma's house. I picked up my baby and I left. And I think 2 weeks after that, I found out I was pregnant.
Oh my
2 weeks after that. So my daughter, and this is why I was sick. I was stressed. I was carrying a baby. I didn't even know I was carrying a child. I was stressed. So my daughter technically saved my life. Like me not knowing, but I wasn't feeling good. So she was, and I tell people, they were like, a child can't give you signs, but I had morning sickness. I couldn't stay awake. I had headaches. Same stuff that I went through with my daughter. Those were my signs to get out. I just thought it because I was going through that. Right. That's why I was sick. So I knew then it was time, but my daughter saved my life. She saved my life.
Gosh, clearly there's so much there of overcoming and being able to have that kind of courage to finally leave and to know that this is not a healthy place for me, my kids, and yours. I mean, I just can't even. I'm trying to wrap my mind around all these things that you experienced with him, and it's just like, how in the hell does somebody as intelligent and as amazing as you are find themselves in a situation like that? But that's exactly it. It could be anybody. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what your background is.
Exactly.
Manipulators are incredibly intelligent in their tactics. So manipulation and abuse, they don't have any boundaries. They can affect every single person.
And it starts mentally first.
Yeah, right.
Now, I want people to understand that they're going to whine you, dine you, and doing everything. But they get up here first.
Yeah.
Get here. If they can get you here, they got you hooked.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they can get in your ears and I tell people, when you love someone, you give them your mind, your heart, and your soul.
Yeah.
Once they get that mind, everything else follows.
Yeah.
I can't tell people enough. It follows. So if you love this person in your mind, that's a piece of your heart. So if you give them a piece of your heart, like I had somebody, it was a pastor one day, and he says, emotionally, when you sleep with someone, and we're not talking about sleeping in the bed, if you have intercourse with someone, every person that you've ever had intercourse is attached to that person. So when you give someone something physical like that, you're attaching yourself to that person.
Yeah.
And every time you go through something and you deal with someone, guess what? You're bringing all that baggage with you.
That's right. That's right.
And you're leaving it with that person. So I had to learn how to deal with it, conquer it, and figure it out, because I was starting from scratch. I have 2 degrees. I have child psychology degree, and I have a child daycare degree, 2.
Amazing.
And I had to figure it out from scratch. I had to start all over again.
And I think that's the circle of life, is being able to, you continuously are starting, and that there's never a true beginning or end. It just keeps going round and round and round, and you learn to figure it out. And a lot of what you're saying, I've experienced too in a relationship. It started with, thinking back on it, the things that somebody says to hook you here is where it started. And I'm glad. I don't know where it could have ended up. I don't know, but thinking back on it, a lot of these, I'm sure hundreds and millions of people have been through a relationship like that, where they can think back and say, oh yeah, there's a lot of these things that somebody said to me. Now in hindsight, I realize that was an abusive tactic. That was a way of them trying to bully me into loving them, because they're using the if you love me, if you really cared for me. There was a lot of that. I had a lot of that in a past relationship, and that's where it started. It started with we have a great connection, but then it transitioned over months and months, and then I realized, oh wow, yeah, I was in an abusive relationship.
And then it goes from the if you love me to who you going with, what time you coming back. Well, I need you to be at such and such time. I didn't tell you to go such and such place. You just have to be careful on who you let love you and who you let in your life.
That's right.
Because and I tell people, it's not just the man or the woman that you're with that you want to spend the rest of your life with. It can also be your parents, your siblings, your uncles, your aunts. People think, girl, you human, you an adult now, can't nobody tell you what to do. Even when it comes to bullying, what people don't understand is let me see, what's the percentage? I want to say now it's more than what it was when I looked at the percentage. I have to look at it again. But when I looked at the percentage, 87% of adults get bullied in the workplace, whether it's a coworker, their supervisor, the founding person of the company, or the COO. That was when I looked at it when I first started my platform. I have to go back and look at it again. But when I researched it a couple of years back, that's a big percentage of adults getting bullied at work.
And think how many people are bullied within their families. I mean, you bring up a really good point of family members doing it too. So, and you may not even realize it. So it doesn't have to be an intimate relationship. It can be anybody.
Yeah, and I tell people when they say best friends, I don't take that lightly.
Right.
And me being in the pageant world, I don't take lightly calling my rhinestone sisters my rhinestone sisters.
Right.
Just our connection that we had. It was not many of us, but we were a strong group full of women. Yeah. We didn't take bull. We didn't. If you talk, and I've never been in a situation or even a pageant situation where everybody had everybody's back. It was always, I'm out there to get what's mine. Right. Even with me and you, we talked all the time. We were able to share our stories with each other. I've never had situations like that. This pageant experience has changed my outlook on pageant. There's people that you can really connect with, love on, and literally enjoy talking to. When you hadn't talked to them for a couple of days, you kind of be like, hey, what's going on? Like, hadn't heard from you. You just have to be careful on how you allow people to attach themselves to you. And you have best friends will manipulate you too. Oh, that's my girlfriend. She been my friend for 2, 5, 10, and 12 years. They'll do it too. Well, if you love me or you call yourself my best friend, you gonna ride or die for me. Or you gonna da-da-da-da-da. The people that you call your best friend that's been with you since y'all were 5 years old, they'll do it to you. I've had one girl, best friend. I called her my best friend. Literally, I hit rock bottom. You're gone. nowhere to be found. You delete me from Facebook, I could really care less if you're my friend on Facebook or not. Because if I got your telephone number, if I really want to talk to you, I'll text you and check on you.
Right.
You deleted me, you blocked me on the telephone, you couldn't call you, text you. And eventually you came and was like, hey, I'm mad. I'm like, what you mad at me for? You revealed my scars, but I didn't reveal them by myself. You were sitting there when I did it. And I love how you say the scars, because that's what they are. It's not physical scars, but mentally and emotionally, it's scars that's embedded there. They're not going anywhere. They heal up, but they're not going anywhere.
I love that a scar is, it's a healing. It's either a physical sign on your skin that shows where a trauma has occurred. And we have those same things on the inside in our hearts and our mind. And clearly we can, you told us how these scars physically and mentally affected you during this relationship. So what was it like then versus now? How do you compare the two different scars in these time frames?
This one hurt more. I would say when I was younger and being bullied, I knew to defend myself at anything. People walk up to you, you to just defend yourself. They swing first, you always taught, your mama always taught you, they hit you first, you defend yourself. So that went the younger me, like the second grader to the teenager, defend yourself any means necessary. This scar was something deeper. It was like something that you almost would snatch my heart out, put it back, and revive me again, like CPR, and do it all over again. So it was because I loved you. I gave me, and you didn't give me you, but you abused the me that I gave you. And I had to stop after I got out of the situation and reevaluate. How do I do CPR on myself? And people laugh at me when I say that. They say a dead person can't do CPR on themselves. I said, but a live person can. And if they want that heart to heal, they have to stop, think, breathe, and CPR themselves. Because if you don't, what are you left with? This scar is going to reopen every single time you get into a relationship, or every single time somebody mistreats you. So you have to take it step by step, because looking back, just even talking about the story, I'm a completely different person. I take no shit from nobody. I tell my mom every day, you either want me to smoke weed, be a drug addict, be an alcoholic. I curse. I have a mouth out of this world. People laugh at me. I have a mouth. And I tell my mom, you either want me to be a drug addict or an alcoholic, or would you rather me to curse? I curse to let my anger go. I choose to not put my hands on anybody. I will call every effort, everything in the world, but it makes me feel better. All that hurt, all that anger is gone. And that's how I deal with it. But I'm more stronger now, and I don't take that mess off of anybody. I just refuse to. It's either you're going to dismiss yourself, or I'm going to have to dismiss myself, or it's going to be a problem.
Absolutely. Well, I don't know if this is true or not, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. I've heard, I don't know if studies have shown, but it's definitely, I can say the studies I've done, whenever I've done it myself, it makes me feel better whenever I've cursed and just gotten it out. So
it's relieving to me.
Yes, and personal studies. So
they be like, girl, your mouth that got foul. You either want me to fight. And I give them those scenarios, and they be like, you know what? I like that last choice. Just go ahead and curse. Just go ahead and curse it out. Curse it out, girl. Curse it. And it makes me, I know it's, it's foul. I don't allow my children to see me when I am upset. I run. I never let my children see me to the point where I've lost control. The last time I did it, and it startled my daughter so much, I try not to allow them see me go from 0 to 1,000. I remove myself, I do what I need, whether it's cry, whatever, and I come back because I don't want it to affect them. It's to the point now where my daughter especially, they know when they see it on me.
Yep.
And the one thing she does, Mommy, are you okay? You need a hug? That's how she makes me calm down, decompress. She said, let me give you a hug. One day, she said, I see it on your face. I need you to decompress. She's 12 years old. And if a 12-year-old can say, I see it on your face, I need you to decompress, let me give you a hug, that means it's gone too far and I'm about to explode.
That is so amazing that you recognize it. It's that mindfulness and knowing that how you react can be felt and taken in by your children. And I mean, that's something that stays with them.
Oh,
They'll see that. They see how you react. Is it gonna be negative? Are you gonna choose the negative options, or are you gonna choose to handle it in a way that's healthy?
right.
So you have a choice. Which one is it going to be? And your children see that, and they
right.
and I love how your daughter, oh gosh, she sounds like the sweetest girl too. I mean, good Lord.
My mom has 5 grandbabies. She's the only girl out of all 5.
Oh.
My sister has 3. I have my son, and she's the 5th. She's the baby of the bunch.
Yeah.
And she knows how to get the boys to decompress. She knows how to, their anger will go, and like I tell people, all of us are the same. Mm-hmm. We have 0 to 1,000. We don't have that in between.
Right.
But with her, she knows how to get all of us, including the boys, focus on me. And for her to be 12, she can say, hey, I'm right here. Focus on me. Let's talk. Take a breath.
My God.
My son is triggered by me. I'm 5'7". He's maybe 2 inches taller than me. He's towering over me now. And I have to remember, if mom gets upset, this 5'8", 5'9" kid is not too far behind me. And he's going to be, Mama, watch out. I got you. Yeah. I refuse to allow my son to go from 0 to 100 because I've went from 0 to 100. I just refuse to. So I'm just one of those parents. I have to be very aware. And a lot of parents aren't. They allow their kids to see the toxicness, the toxicity, and all of that. And that's what they know. So they know, oh, well, my mom does it. I'm finna shoot 0 to 100 too.
Yeah.
Come at me. So, yeah.
And then it's behaviors that you have to deal with later on as an adult because you realize those are unhealthy mechanisms as a kid, but you don't recognize that because you're a child and your brain can't process that. So can you tell us though about the CPR that you gave yourself whenever you were finally free of this relationship? What was the healing journey like for you?
I shut myself off from the world. I had to. With my son. So with him, I was 6 months when I found out I was pregnant with him. I went through a lot of medical issues. And with my daughter, I had that long term. I was able to carry her the whole 9 months. That whole 9 months was my CPR moment. I shut the world off. My room was my safe haven. I was back at my parents' house. I was back at square one, going from living on my own, having my own place, to being back in my childhood room. Imagine being in a place where you grew up. That's where you went after school. That's where you ate your snack. That's where you watched Nickelodeon. That's where you watched Goosebumps, all these things. Yeah. It took me back to a childhood state. Once I made it into that room, I realized this is the room I grew up in, but this is my safe haven. Yeah. When I wanted to cry, when I wanted to yell, when I wanted to break down, my mom knew she's in a room with the door closed for a reason. Give her her space. Yeah. My son wouldn't be in there with me. And I had to, my main source and my main resource was falling on my face and praying. And one of the things I asked God, why did you forsake me? Why did you allow me to go through that? And I would always hear him say, why not you? I needed to bring you out of the fire and give you a voice. So why not you? Once I realized that, I was like, okay, I'm getting somewhere. Yes. So then I realized I was getting up every morning. I went from walking around the house, not combing my hair, to getting up. It started in stages. Maybe if I get up and comb my hair, I feel better.
Right.
Because I was torn up. I didn't comb my hair. I didn't wash my face. I brushed my teeth, washed my face, but that was about all you were going to get. I was going to be in pajamas all day. Mm-hmm. And I got sick with a headache. And it was just one of these, have you ever had a migraine where everything had to be out? Mm-hmm. You had to black everything out. My room was blacked out. I lived with I didn't really see sunlight. Whenever I had a headache, I had to black out, I had to cut all the lights out, no TV, no anything. And this one particular day, my mom walked in the room and she said, I just looked like I was just in the zone. It was just me and the Lord. And I was just in there worshiping. No music on, no nothing. And she said, I was just laying in the bed and my hands were raised. And then she said, next thing I knew, I was laid out like I was on the cross. And she said, from that day on, she seen the change in me. I had that moment where I shared it with him. And a lot of people say, oh, well, I've never experienced it. But when you experience that one-on-one moment with God and he sends those angels down to surround you and it's just you and him, she said, I couldn't do anything but go back out the room and close the door because you literally were laid out like you were on the cross. She said, I knew then you were going to be okay because you were having that one-on-one connection. Once I woke up, I was different. Yeah. The world owed me nothing, but it was get up, put your big girl pants on, and let's hit the world. So I got up, I get dressed every day. It started off, Mama, go walk around the yard. Then it started off, Mama, I'm finna go to the church and I'm finna do da 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 da. And still carry my baby. My daughter, I'll never forget it. I went into labor, blood pressure dropped, everything. They were like, hey, we got to get you in this oxygen. We got to do this, da da da. My daughter didn't have a middle name. She had her first name. She had no middle name. My mom started singing joy, joy, God's great joy. The machines were going off. They were beeping. She was in distress. Everything stopped. I kid you not, I seen angels around, just going in circles around the room.
Oh my gosh.
One came down and sat on the edge of my bed, touched me on my leg, everything regulated. Heart rate regulated. She wasn't in distress anymore. Blood pressure went back normal, everything. God said, this is your chance. What are you going to do with it? And I knew then my CPR on myself, I had completed my journey when I heard, this is your second chance. So what are you going to do with it?
Oh my gosh. I guess I have full body chills right now hearing that story. Oh my goodness.
And once I heard that, it was either soak in it or leave. Everything. And when I tell you, and it was scary because my pressure was hurting my baby by being so high. Right. And this is your chance. What are you going to do with it?
Oh, sounds like you definitely took that to heart and you're living a full second chance right now.
And when I tell you I love every minute of it.
Yeah.
And what the release was when I wrote my book that sealed it. It's called You're More Than Enough, A Queen's Cry. I have a co-author that I wrote it with, and she tells her story about her sexual abuse, and I tell my story about my domestic violence. That was the seal on it. Wow. I knew then he had no more power over me.
That was
when I was able to put pen to paper, that was it.
Chains were broken. You were free.
Yep, that was it.
And I'm just like, there's just so much to gather from this conversation with you. So one, I want to know, where can people buy your book?
You can find me on Facebook. We're still trying to get our website up, but it's called You're More Than Enough, A Queen's Cry. We do have a like page. You can go and find that page. You can also find me on Facebook, Takima Michelle Rogers. And you can inbox me. My inbox is open. I tell anybody, my inbox is for anybody who needs it. If you need help getting connected to the right people to get you out of your situation, whether it's via Instagram or Facebook, you inbox me, you say, hey, I want a copy of your book. They're $20. You let me know, pay the $20 to my Cash App, inbox me, I'll send you my Cash App. Once you pay your money, I'll send you your book.
Excellent. And we'll be sure to include the links to your pages as well. So viewers will have a chance to connect with you on that end. So what final message or takeaway would you want somebody to have of your story? What kind of lesson, moral, call to action would you want somebody to know?
I would tell someone, never, ever let anyone take your power. If you let someone have your power, you will feel like you've let yourself down. Never, ever let anyone take your power, your momentum, and always, always set your goals and reach them, and never let anyone stop you.
Love it. Thank you, Takima. That is such a beautiful story of coming literally from the ashes and rebirth into just something great. I am a firm believer that the Lord, I've said this in a lot of my interviews too, that the Lord uses a lot of our tragic situations for something good. Even in that moment, we may not be able to understand how in the world could something like this be used for something good. And your story is, I mean, clearly evidence of how that can happen. Amazing. Yes. Well, thank you, Takima. I do appreciate your story. And again, we'll make sure that everybody has a chance to connect with Takima through the link. So any final parting words you would like to leave for the viewers?
I just want to say that this platform is amazing, amazing, amazing. It was therapeutic for me telling my story. So I appreciate you for allowing me to have the moment and the time to share my story on your platform. And I love it. I love it. So
thank you. You're absolutely welcome. I know that somebody in your position will absolutely be able to influence and impact millions of people. There's always going to be somebody who needs to hear your story. And your voice matters. It's valuable. It's worthy. You have so much love to give. Somebody needs to hear it. So I appreciate you sharing your story with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.